through as they're offering. Yeah.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi, sorry for joining late. I had to rip myself from another call. Which
I can't say anything right away, so I've missed quite some.
Yeah. At least I showed up. How are you, David?
Yeah, well, I was just explaining, if you're a sort of disabled person suddenly, then you are developing a sort of humbleness in having to ask help for everything that you do.
Yeah.
So that's and it's getting less. So I can move around. I don't use a wheelchair anymore. So
really?
I can, with crutches or sometimes even without, I can sort of move. But yeah, I mean, you're used to do far more in less time, and that's sort of yeah. And everything is very tiresome. So at the end of the day, it's like you're exhausted because everything is sort of difficult. So.
Yeah. Are you in pain?
And after a day like this, I will tonight. If I stand up from this meeting, that will be very painful.
Oh.
So now I've worked all day with my cows in the field, and that's quite tough.
Oh wow!
Then you move too much, and then if you sit down, that's then you're being punished for the things you did before.
Oh yeah, you pay the price.
Yeah. Hey, Elise is joining, or should we start?
Yeah, she's just messaged saying she's going to be 2 minutes with a hot, panting face emoji.
and then I will look up because I'm with the wrong computer now. I have to see to get my papers. So now I'm now here in Zeeland, and we're doing reconstruction here, and that's also painful. That you have all kinds of things that you want to do yourself, but everything needs to be cancelled, and you have to hire people to do that. And I put all the money I owned. I did put in the investment of buying the place, and but that's sort of a challenge that we're now. Hiring people that we can hardly pay for. So that's that's an issue, sort of an issue. That's but well, I think we'll sort it out. And at some point we just have to stop with the work that we planned, and then see how far we get. And
Is it a new place?
Yeah, well, I have the house I'm in now that I owned. My family has owned it for.
Hi, Lord.
Hey, hi, Elise.
Hi.
Sorry. Okay.
Okay, but well, you're there. No, so this place we owned already for when I was when I was pretty young, and so I inherited it from my parents. But I bought the farm quite almost opposite of this house, and I bought it about a year ago, no less, half a year ago, and we started all kind of renovations there because it's really worn out. It was a very old historic farm, but pretty messed up, and so we made all kind of plans to partly do things ourselves and partly to have it done. But anyway, the cows need to go there because they can't stay in the field where they are now because they're ruining everything, and things have become very muddy and nasty. So we're now we just managed. So I rushed out of the field. Anna came to pick me up. I asked her, "Can you come and get me by car? Otherwise, I will be late again or not there at all." So,
stuck in a field.
That's the only way I can be at meetings nowadays. So, but well,
wow.
Hey, since we're all there, I think we should get started. There's quite some things to be discussed. Let's first start with the approval of the previous minutes. Is there anything that needs to be said about that? Any comments or any adjustments that need to be made? And if not, then we can step to the actions from the previous meeting. And I have them here, and they are done, open, done. So let's look at the open issues, zoo collaboration policy, board to schedule a dedicated meeting to develop red lines. And I think that's in the under development, Dave. You are working on that, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'm putting together a discussion paper and some maybe some risk analysis stuff and some comparisons, things like that, to what I'd like to do in the new year maybe is we could do it as a board, or we could potentially invite some partners to get involved. I think next year we're going to get more involved with the zoo work and more direct interaction with the zoos. We've been doing quite a lot of behind the scenes stuff so far, but I think it may become more public next year. So I think we do need to just tie down what we are and aren't happy with as an organisation. So I've been developing a discussion paper that can form the basis of that group. So if there's any board members that would like to be on it, then that's great, obviously. But then I thought I might, rather than just send an email out to all partners, I might just approach some individuals and say, would you like to be on the group? And then we could bring together a more detailed sort of position statement stroke policy document, depending on what we have. Bearing in mind, we do have a policy document around collaboration with zoos, but it's really just about zoos we will and won't work with. Very definite red line stuff that's quite obvious. I think we need to talk more about how we publicly talk about collaboration with zoos, and navigate that a little bit more as well. So that would all be up for discussion. But yeah, that would be something I'd like to do in the new year.
Yeah, but not something to be discussed further at this stage, but more something. Yeah. And the working group that you're thinking about, that would be a working group of the board or a working group of partners?
Well, as the action goes now, it's the board. So I'm happy to do it as the board if that's what we think. I mean, I think there's certainly enough heads in the room to be able to do that. Or we could invite other partners to get involved. It's totally up to you. I don't have it's not like I think there's somebody specifically within the partner network that we would benefit from having. I just thought, given, that it's a specific issue, it might make more sense just to have a separate working group from the board. But what do people think?
Oh, and still, also, if we have a working group, we could still also invite partners from outside the board. That's yeah. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Rachel, you're getting in?
Yeah, I was just thinking, if we're inviting people, I think we might be open to criticism if we decide who to invite. Mm-hmm. And some people are just saying, how come we didn't get that chance or whatever, even if they're not interested. That might need to be an open invitation. Because you're unlikely to be overwhelmed, are you?
It's more, we won't be overwhelmed, but we'll probably get, we might get offers of help from areas where I don't think there's necessarily expertise.
Yeah.
So it's more just that, really. Specifically, we might end up getting, I don't know, Lisa, Joanna are quite keen on getting involved in anything ears related. That might be something that comes up. But more specifically, I'd actually like to encourage people that won't actually offer. If I just send out a blanket email, I'd actually like to encourage some people who are a bit more directly involved. Maybe people from outside the organisation as well could be useful. Maybe people from within the zoo community that we can trust. I don't know, possible. But yeah.
I think that would be a second step in my view. First, it's difficult to talk about red lines if we're having zoo people in the room. And by the way, I mean, there is enough already zoo people or people who have zoo experiences. So in that sense, I think we would have enough. Let's make up our minds first before we go outside, because otherwise that has the potential of getting nasty.
I think that by inviting the partners that also have a zoo or have like a combination, like for instance Stichting Leo, where it's very clear that they have both, and that's internal, but it's still the zoo community. So I think there's quite a lot of people from different backgrounds, like with absolutely no visitors staying away. And I mean, I think it's a good idea to have the discussion like before we set up something. Then, because you have to have the discussion also internally in ears at some point anyway. So that may be better in an early stage than in a later stage.
Yeah, I agree. That something like the Robert from Stichting Leo, that could be tricky if we're setting red lines and things. Because
but
future types of partnership, etc.
But in the end, I guess that it's like something all the partners have to agree with, or you vote. That's also another option. Huh? So then, if he's the only one who thinks that way and all the others don't.
Yeah, no, I meant at the initial stages. So if we're meeting, creating some red lines and then putting it to the membership. I guess I'm backtracking a bit on saying that it could be a bit tricky to pick out people without asking everybody.
Yeah. The question about if you have like an open invitation or you specifically ask people, you mean? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in general, I guess that if you have an open invitation, that the people who do show interest are more motivated to participate.
But Dave has also an idea that there might be interest from people who are not necessarily contributing much to the discussion, but still would offer their help. Isn't
that's a small concern, but it's more so. For example, I think having Robert there as somebody who runs a zoo would be really useful. We might not agree with everything he says, but I know for a fact he won't reply to any general request for, I would have to ring him and say that we'd really like you on board, or could you delegate someone? And I'd have to try and make that happen. If I just send out an email, he won't be on the working group.
But you can follow up with a call, right? Like you can send out the email to everyone and then call specific people that you think would be contributing.
I guess the first question is does everyone on the board want to be part of the discussion? And if they do, then we get an idea on numbers, don't we? Because obviously that we've got 7 here. How many more? If all of us want to be involved in the discussion, then how many more do we really realistically want to have? I've had a thumbs up from Nick. Maybe that's an easy way of finding out. Thumbs up from Barbara.
Yeah, geez. I never work with Zoom, man. Come on.
Just use your real thumb. It's quicker.
We could maybe just for simplicity, we keep it within the board to start with, and then once we identify the need to have input from individuals, we can invite them to come as and when. That Rachel might address your concern, is that if we're asking for somebody rather than a generic come and be on the working group, we just ask Robert, we'd like to get your thoughts on this, and then it's for a specific reason which justifies why we're not asking everyone.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
So should we just get together, work out some guidance of what it is that we need to discuss, where there are issues, and then start to ask for help on specific issues or parts of it?
Yeah, I mean, part of that discussion paper I've been working on is kind of trying to just be clear about what it is we're discussing, because there's different levels of it, There's what do we as an organization condemn in zoos? So there will be things going on in zoos we might say we are just against, regardless of whether we're involved in rescue or whatever else, we just think that should not happen. Right the way through to what zoos would we ourselves recommend placing an animal in versus everything, all the other stuff in between. And so that's, so maybe we can have a dedicated board meeting early next year to do that.
Okay.
Take it from there.
Okay. So that's work in progress. Then the other issue in Neotropico, that's not an issue, but Neotropico screening, that's on the agenda. And then there's the pilot project funding. That's not on the agenda, I think, isn't it? No.
No, I'm not sure if there's much more update on that front from Nick at this stage, is there?
I can give a quick one, because we've been sort of desperately searching for any kind of angle that we can try and get money on. And just as a quick update, and Dave, you'll be interested in this, there was actually a side event at CITES with both the Wildlife Confiscations Network and SAS from Cécile, from the French network of confiscations, and that was really, really interesting. And of course, that is talking about networks of zoos and rescue centres that are there to help organise confiscations, essentially. And some of you are aware that we're considering ways to upscale that at EU level. Is it something that we should be doing? And if so, how how could we do it with limited resources and funding and things like that. So life funding was the original way we were going to try and do that. That is an absolute no-go. So we've reached out to several different contacts at Life themselves, and essentially there's only 2 more years left of Life funding. My baby monitor is going crazy. There we go. Just turn it off. That'll be good daddy there. Then essentially there's only 2 more years of Life funding, and every year the funding proposals are very similar to the previous year, so we're not going to be able to influence the type of funding that Life is going for. That was the plan that we had, but there is a very interesting avenue for cost.eu. I don't know if you remember last time I presented cost.eu, and I have a PhD student who is going to help write a proposal for us. And so, Dave, I'll probably work with you primarily, but we can certainly open up for discussions with anybody else here that's interested. And that would focus largely on training opportunities and opportunities for research through rescue centres, rather than the coordination tool that we were previously talking about, Dave. But then regarding the tool, I'm still looking into Horizon Europe, also something called Interreg, which is a funding for inter-regional funding. So taking 2 member states and seeing how they can connect together. That's another area of possibility. And I just came across, and at CITES, we got approached by a very interesting person who's setting up a very big rescue centre in Poland, the first of its kind. Eva, I'm not sure if you know about this, but she also approached Deverell.
I know her. She visited Aap.
Yes, great.
Get inspired. I showed her around.
Fantastic.
Agnieszka, it's called. Yeah.
That's right. So she also approached me, and she let me know about some potential funding between governments, but they can't do it alone. They need our help essentially to be able to do something like this. And the benefit there is that it wouldn't just be of confiscations. It could also be for other animals, from circus closures, from the pet trade and everything like that. So that could be a very interesting source of funding to do something. So Dave, I'll keep you posted on that. And Eva, I'm going to meet with her soon, and I'll keep you and Deverell posted as well, just to make sure that we're all sharing the information from her. But it's super interesting. There are some avenues, but it's blooming complicated, I have to say.
Yeah, well, that's sort of the story I hear about EU funding. Always, it's extremely, it's better to go for the big money and to set up a whole system around it. Then it's sort of, well, easy is not the right word, but I mean, then it's doable. But that's easier than trying to get a little bit of funding from a if you are not, as an organization, not really familiar with the processes. And I can tell you from my own experience that also the follow-up of that money is quite complicated. They might ask for reports that you're not able to deliver, and then you're really in trouble. They're in trouble. I mean, at Aap, we had to dig up the sewer system to prove that we had a sewer system in the ground. So those kind of, because our invoices did not specifically show that we had pipelines underneath the floor leading the rubbish water. Those kind of. So the EU funding is not always easy, but well, it still needs to be pursued, and if it works, then it's nice.
Yeah. Let's see.
Okay. Well, things to be followed up on. So, and the last issue was the partner meeting agenda. Well, of course, that has been finished and the meeting has been held. Shall we move to that item, the general partner meeting? Of course, I was not there, so I need to hand over to Dave primarily. Anything to be said about it?
Well, I mean, I was hoping in this meeting it was just to get the view of the board, really. Obviously, we were limited in terms of which board members attended, but I just wanted to get a feel for it. I mean, I felt like the meeting went reasonably well. My biggest concern was lack of attendance, which it feels is slowly kind of just becoming more and more of an issue. I don't know if that's because of the content of the meetings. I don't think it is. I think it's just as online meetings become the norm, the cost and expense, time wise and money wise, to go to a country and spend a few days there, more and more people are just not seeing it as something that they can justify within their costs and everything. But it'd be interesting to get people's opinions on the meeting itself, first of all, and how the board members felt it went and what could have been improved. And I guess the one area where I felt it didn't go as well as previous years is the workshop, the animal training workshop. I thought it was good. It was good content, but there was a lot of one-way presentations, which I try to avoid as much as I can, but there's a limit to how much I can control that when there's an external facilitator coming in. I would have preferred to have a little bit more interaction, a little bit more discussion, and the practical aspects that we did of the training, maybe they didn't go quite as well as I thought they would go, maybe, but it's difficult to know. It's difficult to plan ahead for those things, so I'm not being too critical of Annette, but on the whole, I thought it went well. I'm just keen to find out board members' opinions, but also just have a chat about, what we think about future general partner meetings, how often we do them, and how we try and get more attendance. Because actually, I think there were 8 or 9 partners there this year, not there this year, and so yeah, good to get
Can we
people.
do it step one by one? First, make a round by the people, board members who were attending, to see what their general view was on the meeting, and then step into ideas for the future. So who wants to start? Barbara, you were there.
I was there.
You was there.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, and I was there, and Patricia, my colleague from headquarters, was there as well. And none of our sanctuaries sent any representatives. So that's, I think, also why the number of partners that were there is already quite low, because I think we have like 8 or something, or 7, I don't know exactly. And I actually sent an email to all the sanctuaries to ask, you weren't there. Forpos is one of the main contributors to EARS. Why weren't you there? Do you think it makes sense for us to meet in person? Like, what's your interest, to get a bit their feedback as well? And they basically all replied that they've been very busy, they've been understaffed, there's a lot of things going on. So they all expressed that EARS is important to them and that they would like to attend these meetings, but that they just simply couldn't this year, and that they hope in the future that will change. But I also know that internally there has been some pushback on travel, like we're being more strict with travel, and having a lot of colleagues attend the same meetings or conferences, etc. That's being more strictly, I don't know, checked or not approved. So I will continue doing some internal research if for Forpos, also considering we're contributing a large amount of the budget, if this is something that, if every year none of us are attending, then maybe, at least from our perspective, it doesn't make sense to try to meet every year, at least in person. But yeah, from the sanctuary perspective, or from they would have liked to, they just couldn't. I thought the meeting was very nice. I thought the workshop was actually very, very interesting. I noticed that some participants, like the guy from Stichting Leeuw, he was asking a lot of questions. He was super interested. And then some people didn't ask so many questions, which is maybe because, like, for me personally, I don't work with animal training, so I didn't really have any good questions. And maybe that was the case, that more representatives just don't really work so much with this particular topic and then don't have so many questions. I didn't really mind that it was not very interactive, because there was just a lot of very interesting content. But now that you said it, Dave, yeah, maybe that's also, I don't know, I didn't really think about that. Yeah, and I mean, I think the value of these meetings is getting all these people together and having them also have time for them to interact with each other in between the agenda items. And if then not so many people are there, that makes me doubt a bit more, is there a value to meeting? But then anyways, then we're talking about the second point already. And I wondered, like, this one topic about the financial contributions, I don't think it was on the agenda, although we said it would be.
Yeah, it is on the agenda.
No, I mean of the partner meeting,
Oh,
which I thought was the
I,
plan, but then
I,
it wasn't.
I had to squeeze it out because there wasn't enough room to have it.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I also felt that given that half of the partners weren't there,
Yeah.
probably was of limited value. And if something had to go off the agenda, it was that because it was to make room for other topics.
Yeah.
So
More
that was
fun topics
why.
also. Yeah.
Yeah, and also I felt like it probably made sense for us to have, and this is why it's on the agenda, to have at least a position or a suggestion for what the new partner fee should be, and then go to the partners with a justification and for why
Yeah.
and ask their thoughts on it and stuff.
Yeah. Anyways, I kind of I see the added value of meeting in person, but maybe it's becoming unrealistic to do it every year. Also, because it didn't feel like, oh, there were so many things we would have liked to discuss and we didn't have the time for it. We had a full day really for this workshop. Yeah, that's kind of my first thoughts.
okay. Who wants to follow up? Rachel?
Yeah. I think I'm pretty much in agreement with Barbara, really, on all her points. I think the value is the meeting up, and I think those that are there really enjoy that, and it's valuable, and that people do start discussing things that are interesting and useful between sanctuaries. But the fact that there weren't very many actual animal care staff, people directly involved with the animals, did make the workshop a little less valuable in some ways. Which was a shame, and there's nothing that I think Dave or I've gone completely blank. What was her name? Who ran the workshop? Yes, Annette. Thank you. That you could do about that. And the part of what would have been interesting with that is that the rescue animal side of things is quite different, as she came to realise. So some of the things that she was talking about, she realised, well, were not appropriate, or the way that you might approach things. Responses of the animals are not going to be the same, which to those of us that work directly with the animals or have the history of it could see that. Those kind of things could come up if there was follow-up webinar, then that might be a way of getting people more involved again, having gone through that. Because I think in principle, it's a very valuable tool, and it would be nice to be able to share more of that with the care team.
I definitely think there's a scope to that. We've already done a webinar, which was kind of what led to us using in the workshop, but that was very generic. This is what animal training is and why it's good and that kind of stuff. I think we could definitely look at, and I know Annette's interested in something a bit more specific to animal training for traumatized animals or whatever it might be. So that's definitely something. I've got a meeting with Olga next week to kind of go through the webinars for next year and stuff, and that's one that I'd like to put in.
Yeah, I mean, there were moments of minimal horror for me as she tried to do some of the stuff, particularly with the primates. But getting the whole team of people around a cage with animals who've never met all those people before, and most of those people have never worked with animals. That was a bit tricky. But the principle is, as a tool, is still good. So I don't want to be too negative about that. It's just, I think it's her not realizing her audience, and also approach to animals, which is different. So it's how to glean the positive out of it and the useful parts of the tool without getting involved with the rest. Yeah, but otherwise I think I just would repeat what Barbara says.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone who wants to follow up, Eva, and I don't know who else were there and who were not there, because I was not there myself. So Nick and Elise, you were both. Elise, you were there, I suppose, or not? Yeah. And Nick, you were not, or you were?
I was not, but maybe I can offer something as to why or something like that afterwards. But we can hear from the ones that were.
I have difficulties in hearing you. I don't know if the others have the same problem.
Yeah, it went a bit. Your sound's gone a bit muffled.
Oh, how about now?
Try it again. Say something.
Better now?
No.
Oh, I'll come back.
Yeah. Oh, but
Okay.
now you're. Oh. Okay, Eva, can you?
Yes, I can. Actually, I think that the first day where we shared the partner updates, and also some of the partners shared a little bit more like in detail, or more like as a presentation, not as a short update. I actually liked that a lot, and I thought it was really valuable. And that was also one of the, I find that the most interesting part, because it's really kind of, finding ways to connect, and maybe also finding a way to follow up on a one-on-one, or like in a smaller thing on a specific topic with the partners themselves. So I think that was very valuable. Besides the discussion, if you can also do that online, but okay, to do that was very nice. The second day with the training, I found that a little bit difficult. First of all, I think that we should have presentation with Annette to take out the red flags between the zoo way and the really like training for training purposes little bits, which I do think with some people, especially with, definitely with me, raise red flags, and you get in this thing like, okay, are we training for the welfare of the animals, or just to show off that you can open the mouth of an animal? So these kind of, I think we should have gone with her before, because she doesn't know that, because she doesn't know what kind of community she ends up in. So to kind of go over it, take the pictures out, which raise those red flags, or a part of the examples or something. I think adjust it a little bit, because I think that helps better. And also the part what Rachel already raised about the practicing with the animals themselves. I mean, there's other ways to do that. We could have done it with the dogs that were around. I think that would have been a lot better than with the monkeys in the cage, with people. I mean, it was not a good idea. I mean, and she had no clue what's going on. And when the animals started to fight, she didn't really know what was going on. And I also don't know, and it's something we might have to ask Animatura, if they felt pressured into making it possible to do this practical part, or that they felt the freedom to say no. So that was, for me, was a little bit, I mean, if I would be in their position and having all these people over, and really wanted to be the host and proud of the center and everything, and then because if I understood it correctly, the day before Annette went there, and she kind of looked around with the caretakers and what's going on and suitable and whatever. And I'm not sure if they've also felt enough the freedom to say like, no, we don't feel comfortable with this. Can we, or can we just do the lion and not the whole group of monkeys? So I felt a bit uneasy with that. I wasn't sure if that was something they would have done if there was not the pressure to do it.
Well, I mean, I can say there definitely wasn't any pressure on Animatura to have any practical sessions. Annette said it would be great to do something like that if it was possible. And obviously my liaison is all through Lisa, and she was very enthusiastic about it and said we'd love to do that. But
was it the caretakers or was it Lisa? Because
exactly. So I mean, I planned in that extra day for Annette to spend time with the keepers, thinking it would deal with that issue. But I actually think now, when you have walked around Animatura, I think it's quite a flat organization. And then there's Marco at the top, with quite a distance, and he wasn't too involved in the meeting itself, or certainly not the practical sessions. So I don't think the questions were necessarily asked to the right people. But I felt like the big cat one was better, not only because it was less stressful for the animals involved, but it actually revealed a really interesting sort of lesson there about the effects that an ex-circus lion and how it reacted to training and techniques and things. It was actually a really interesting learning point for her more than anyone else. But I think with the animal training, there's so much potential there. Where we're at now is moving away from the zoo focused training, and like you say, Ava, almost like the academic interest in training and how far can we go and what can we do, to more specific resources and help on with training with rescue centres in mind. And I know Annette's really, really interested and keen in working on that, but we between ourselves as well could do something there too. So that's, for me, I think there's quite a lot there to develop. And it was difficult. I wasn't sure what the level everyone was at. And I think, as is always the case with EARS partners, some partners do very, very little training work, and some are obviously much more advanced in it. So, yeah.
Eva, did you have other things, comments? No?
Sorry, you were like staccato. Can you say it again?
Did you have other issues or other things that you wanted to mention? If not, then better. I think we should move to Elisa, and then we make a sort of a roundup for this part. Elisa, your comments?
Yes, I fully agree with Hera. In general, I think the sharing part is one of the strong points of the meeting, because, for example, also my young colleague, that was the first time for her at the meeting, she was enthusiastic about the possibility to share experience with the other. And I saw that during the 2 days, we always find opportunity to discuss each other about any kind of question about management things. So in general, I think that probably one full day for the workshop probably was really a lot. But I'm not completely negative about the workshop, because of sure there was also great ideas for us, but I completely agree with Eva about what she said. And also, I don't remember the name of the trainer, Lisa. No, Lisa.
Annette.
Annette.
I know now.
She said with me when we were walking, I completely avoid that you treat with animal that are rescued. So it was my fault. I think if she felt a little guilty about this, and probably was the point that me and Rachel said before the meeting about having someone that came from Zoom world. But okay, it's done, and okay. And other things, no. I think, yes, also for me, the first day was probably very nice, because I see that every time we meet each other, we are very interested in what the other are doing. All new challenge things are probably always the best part. But it's true that we are really few people, and I understand the difficulties to attend. It was my fault, for example, last year. It was impossible for me, it can happen, but in general, all the meetings are always with few people.
Yeah. Can I ask you immediately to go into the issue of how to proceed with general partner meetings? If we would ask you, what would your idea be about the future of the general partner meeting? Do you have any ideas about how to develop that, or continue the same way and just accept that there will be a little bit less attendance, or should we do it differently, or online, or?
I definitely think that online is not the solution, because the point, the strong point I think for most of us is sharing parts, so online is different. Probably a different structure of the days with more practical things, more activity probably would be better. I know it's difficult, and I don't know. We already discussed about the moment of the year in which is the best for everyone, and because at the beginning we started with the spring, that was really difficult for everyone. So now during the autumn, winter, I think is a good moment. But we start to be quite a lot of partners, so I think also it's normal that everyone could have some problem personal problema with work. So I don't know which is the solution. Probably would be nice to try to ask to partners what they would appreciate in the meeting.
Yeah. Nick, you wanted to come in earlier about the partner meetings.
Yeah, no. Is my sound working?
Yeah. At least for me, it's working. Yeah, I don't know about Dave.
Yeah.
I hear.
Okay.
So it's very, very interesting to hear the perspectives of people that were there, because first of all, my big apologies for not being there. And I just I wonder, because I'm really hoping to come to the next one, whether it be next year or another time, hopefully next year. But I was just wondering, is it always at the same time of year, for example? Or when and how is it decided of where it is? Because just for me, for example, the only reason that I couldn't come is because it fell within an extremely busy period. Other than that, I would have loved to. So I wonder if that was the same for other people who couldn't make it.
The time of year, as Elisa touched on, we started off in spring, and that really doesn't work with, especially with certain rescue centres involved with, indigenous animal rescue, things like that. A lot of young animals coming in, and it just slowly moved towards around about where we've been having it, which is kind of autumn, early winter sort of time. But I mean, I've spoken to everyone who didn't attend, and it's exactly what you said, Barbara. It's never some generic thing of like, oh, we don't find it useful, or we can't. It's always, oh, we just got a really busy rescue, or there's this thing happening, or individuals literally just not well, ill, been to hospital, surgery. And I think Elisa's right that as the number of partners comes up, those things just happen. So I'm not sure how you deal with that really. I think there are one or two people who I think finance is just an ongoing issue, and it's very difficult to afford to be able to go to those things. But I think for a lot of people, it's individual circumstances at the time. After that, I would say it's language barrier is another issue with some, where I think they wouldn't say it as a reason, but I think it is. So Refuge de l'Arche is a good example there. They came every year, they hosted it, and then it stopped the minute Sarah left, because she was really the only person that was confident in their English to be able to come and speak.
Dave, you mind if we make the round first, and then we go into a little bit more of the bring things together. So, Elisa, Nick, you've given your insights. Are there others who have an idea about how to proceed? Rachel.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether every 18 months would give some variation, but stretch it out so that it helps with the cost. Because I do see the value of the in-person thing. I think there's something which really works with that. But it is hard to justify for the smaller sanctuaries particularly.
So that would do two things. It would change the season in which it's being held. It would be, and it would also alternate, and also the frequency would go down. It would go down.
Yeah. I would be a bit worried if we stretched it out too much, that people would lose the momentum and of actually coming.
Yeah.
But although I appreciate if we're having lots of webinars in between, then that keeps people on board as well.
Yeah. Anyone else who wants to come in? Eva?
Yeah, I thought it might also be an option, because one of the things that's now also maybe a factor is that depending on the program, you might want to send different people. There's like more practical things, or there's more like management things to discuss. So what you also could do is like more in advance know what the program is going to be, and then also like have 1 year have a more like a practical program, and more like like maybe caretakers or the people who work directly with the animals are more interested and can share and meet each other. And then the other year it's more on maybe management level or more on those policy things or something like that. So you kind of also diversify the program a little bit so that there's also different people that can come. And if people really want to come for the network and everything, then they can come every year. Or maybe that's also a way to go about it. But then you have to announce it really early because otherwise you cannot plan who is coming. If you announce it a few weeks before, then you book the wrong tickets with the wrong person.
I think that would be super helpful also for us. If the program is known earlier, then it's easier for some colleagues to get approval also for the travel, because then they can show like there's a good reason for me to be here.
And what about the idea of Eva to alternate? So Rachel was saying alternate seasons and lower the frequency. And Eva's thought is, okay, we might still do it every year, but one year more managerial or political and the other year more practical. Would that work for you?
Are you asking me a question?
No, I asked Barbara because she.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I was just confused.
I'm trying to think. I think it depends a bit, right? Because I mean, I would say keep it a bit flexible because we don't want to force a certain topic or a certain type of meeting if there's actually a need for the other type. You know what I mean? But I can imagine from Forpos side, as we're trying to reduce travel and because the sanctuaries are so busy, it's more feasible if they're less often the meetings that people will join. But because of course, for some of the sanctuaries, we have bigger teams. And for some of the sanctuaries, the smaller ones, it's anyways going to be the same person, right, joining, because they don't have that many people. I don't know how many sanctuaries we have that would really send different stuff. But yeah, we could at least per meeting decide if there's a focus on one thing or the other. But I wouldn't say it always has to be one and then the other.
Because from what I hear now is those people who were attending were not primarily practical people, but they were managerial. So then the workshop was less interesting, perhaps. I mean, as a workshop, it's still interesting, but I mean, you would get more benefits out of it if you would have been there with a more practical team.
Absolutely. And that I think that can also goes back to knowing the agenda long enough in advance, right? If people know, okay, it's going to be a full day of animal training workshop, then we want to send the colleagues that are actually working on that.
Yeah. Okay.
And the issue,
now your comments. Yeah.
the issue there is that I totally get that, but then the partner update bits that you were all saying were really valuable are then led by individual caretakers that might not have that perspective. So this is the constant balance I've always had with these meetings, is trying to get a mix of managerial level stuff, practical stuff. I mean, the ideal situation is, say, for example, Elisa has come and she's brought somebody who's interested in the animal training. So that's the ideal setup, is that you have the main sort of manager or director and they bring the relevant person, be it a fundraiser or an animal caretaker or the vet or whatever it might be. I know that's not possible. And actually what really happens is some people do that. Some people only the director comes and that's it every year. And sometimes people just send the individual, like Stickty and Leo have sent somebody because they're interested in the animal training. That's why he's come this year. I do think that doing it in person every 12 months it's starting to feel a bit out of step with the way things are done in the world nowadays. An annual meeting maybe is too much. Every 18 months, the biggest issue there is it will change the dates to being in springtime, which for some people is really difficult. I don't know how many people it makes it difficult for. I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion. The other option potentially is do it every other year. And then on the year when we're not doing it, we really do a proper, really good online session. And by that, I don't mean maybe 2 days. We could do 2 weeks of online things that are really tailored. So we could do, for example, we could do an animal training for traumatized animals. You would get way more attendance at those. And then you could have a management meeting, you could have a policy meeting, you could set out the agenda well in advance and do it over a week or 2 weeks and really do it properly online and then really do it properly in person. That was the other option in my mind. So it spaces it out even more. It makes it more affordable. I don't think it gets rid of the main problem that I touched on before, which is even if you do it every 2 years, there's still going to be people where things come up, people are ill, busy, rescues, whatever it might be, short-staffed. I don't think there's anything we can really do about that, but it does deal with the cost of it. And actually, there are
And
benefits
it's
to
less
doing
time for people, right? You
Mm.
cut the travel days already, so that's making a difference.
Yeah, no, true.
And then you can do the partner updates because the webinars, I guess you do these kind of workshops, right? They fit right in there, but more the partner updates and the exchange. We don't really have an online space for that yet.
Well, we can do, and I was going to touch on that people really enjoy those partner updates in the meetings, but I ask people all the time for contributions and ideas and updates and news
Yeah.
to share via whether you want to call it a webinar or not. I just get very little back to share throughout the year. Just people don't tend to do it. Mona's quite good at it. Olga's quite proactive at coming up with ideas for things, but yeah, that side. So yeah, I think we definitely need to make it less frequent, in my opinion. But I think if we're going to do that, it needs to be that lack of in-person meetings needs to be replaced with something really new and meaningful, and that could be what I just described, some kind of week-long online meeting.
After Corona, we have seen that the hunger of people to meet was huge. So I think, I don't know what the meeting, I think Stichting Leeuw, that was the meeting immediately after Corona. It was the first time that we met again. And then the room was pretty full. So we were all very eager to meet again. So it is true that by having this annual meeting, there might, people have less. It's all about priorities, of course. So having a big rescue, having a lot of difficulties to get away, the financial things, it's all about priorities. And I think the priority, it will become more of a priority if you lower the frequency. And also, we got to know each other quite well, most of us at least. So it's also that there might be less. So it has become quite a normal meeting, which is a good thing. Also, it's a part of development. So I think it would be worthwhile to test if that would help, and to in the other year to do something. Wim in the past proposed to do a meeting, for instance, in Brussels, if there's something important to be discussed in Brussels. So having a workshop there or doing something somewhere else with a different purpose, where you would have other people attending, or have a special program like you're saying, Dave, tailored for different groups of people, where part of the meeting will be attended by animal care people, but other parts of the meeting could be attended by other people. Yeah. Okay, well, I think
we
enough.
could also have different ways to go forward, and just have a poll under the everybody, and then see what everybody prefers, and then start with what most people would prefer.
You mean so ask people, give them options, maybe what carry on?
Yeah, just give
12 months.
3 different options to continue, or 4, like continue as we do, have it every 18 months. Changing season, having every other year, or having every year and 2 different topics. I don't know, those scenarios, and then see what people want. I mean, just ask everybody what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's one thing that really pops out that most people would like, and that you also have your answer.
In the past, we discussed also about doing a different section in the days, so that people that attend can choose to follow only some days and not, for example, 3 days. That could be too long for someone.
I mean, we've talked about that in the in-person meetings, but this year, for example, if I had 2 different workshops running consecutively, there weren't that many people there anyway, so to then have that split down again, you could end up with 3 or 4 people in a workshop, and it just gets
but on the other hand, we're now talking about how to make it more attractive for people. So we would think that in a new setup, there would be more people attending, so that problem would be covered.
I mean, just to give you a good example, that the training workshop at the meeting, I think it went well with all the caveats that people have covered. When we did the training webinar, it was only 45 minutes long with some questions and answers. I don't know the exact number, but it was it was around about 30 people attended that, and they're all keepers or people with direct interest in the subject. And that was 1 hour. I'm sure, and I've had lots of interest, people asking for the recordings because they couldn't make it and all those sorts of things. There's a lot of interest in this subject, and there is, if we continue with, I do think the online option gives us that chance to reach out to other parts of within the partner organizations that just don't have anything to do with these partner meetings at all. So we're doing that through the webinars, but I don't know, there's some benefit there as well. I did have a suggestion as well. It links to the partner fee point as well, which is I don't know if it's next, but on the agenda.
We can also ask to partners what they would like the topic that they would like to have in the meeting.
Honestly, Elisa, I ask them every year and I get nothing back.
I know, but I know.
And I ask, and not only that, I ask people if you would like an hour to present on a subject, let me know. Nothing back. I have to pursue, and
we might do the test that Eva is proposing. Yeah? So to write down the different options. Perhaps there is people who have an idea about without asking, we'll never know. And then still, we have to make up our minds how to proceed. But I do think that lowering the frequency will help the attendance. That's for sure. But also, it now is difficult to find out whether you have to send someone with a policy background or a practical issue. So if part of the meeting, so splitting up interest or the level on which you're going to hold the meeting is also, might be important. So you had something that links with partner fees, which luckily is the next subject on the agenda.
Well, I'm just gonna. So we discussed about the partner fees and how they need to increase, and Barbara had mentioned the fact, need a bit more transparency about essentially what part of the money that contributing organisations cover the partner fees and how much of it is an additional contribution. Anyway, we talked about the different potential options, and I've got a sheet here that gives the current fees, the fees adjusted for inflation, and what I'm suggesting we could go to, which is an increase for inflation, then some more on top. And I'll put that up first. Let me find it. Can you see it?
No.
Is it there?
Yeah, we can see it.
Right.
Yeah.
So the top box there is just what we currently charge, and the income bands. So and the table below is the adjusted income bands for inflation. What the fees would be if you adjusted it for inflation, based on the fact that those fees haven't moved since we set up ears, and what the proposed new fees would be. It's kind of arbitrary, but that's what I'm suggesting, so that we don't scare people away, but we can, be a bit more transparent about how it's worked out. What I was going to suggest was one thing we.
Sorry, can I just ask you, Dave? The income bands adjusted for inflation, is that does that actually reflect what people are saying they now that their income is? Because it's
No, these are just the categories. So I'm just saying, if for example, the category in 2012 was 251 to 500, then the value of 250 now is 330. It's just to adjust for inflation. It's not assuming anyone's in that category now. People might have gone above it or below it, and you would have to ask them. But that's what the category is now relative to what it was in 2012, if you see what I mean.
If we wouldn't do that, more organizations would end up in a higher category.
Potentially. I mean, obviously there's been a huge amount of change since then. People's incomes have suffered, and but that's what it's just so that it's you can see the comparison. If I left it as the original ones, it would it doesn't necessarily stack across. So I'm not saying we have to keep those categories as they are, but that's what they are if we just adjust them compared to the previous ones.
But Dave, just in general, I mean, I see that your proposed new fee is twice the fee that we more or less than we.
Yeah, so what that's doing is just recognizing what Barbara's concern was, which is, that there's two partners here giving a huge amount, and how do they justify that to the people within their organizations? Well, we can show that relative to each other's incomes, everyone's contributing a bit more. It doesn't make a massive impact on the bottom line, but it does show that people are paying a little bit more. That's why I've done it, because that was the concern that was raised, was that the slight inequality in what most partners are paying compared to others. But as I showed in the previous document that we discussed, relative to income, certain partners are paying plenty relative to how much they actually have as income, sort of thing. So,
yeah, but if I compare the current fee with the new proposed fee, it's not 3 times, but it's so. Are we going to scare away? I mean, the reason why we never went to real partner fees that cover the expenses of ears, that would be the most logical thing to do, of course. And so if normally a network is being paid by the people who are part of the network, but if we would do that liberally, then we would chase away quite a few of our partners.
I think we'd lose all of our partners.
Yeah. So. And what would be the effect of this? It's difficult to say, of course, without having tried. But
so for that higher band, what that does, and it's completely consistent with what everyone else would be doing, is it takes a big chunk out of. So, for example, Four Paws gives €25,000 to ears. Based on this, if they took themselves as one organization, which they do, we don't collect partner fees from the Four Paws facilities because of the amount Four Paws gives. That's part of the agreement. Nearly 7,920 of that 25,000 is what they owe in partner fees, and then the rest is they're giving that above and beyond, and that creates some more transparency about what they're paying for and what they're getting and what's beyond that. Same for app. So apps gives 20,000, 7,920 of that would be actually just their contribution as partners based on what their income is. And then the conversation is, well, what's the other 12,000 for? And then that's where, going back to what we might touch on later, is that. So that was the thinking behind it, and it's the same for everyone. Everyone else has doubled as well.
Yeah, but I'm more concerned not about I'm concerned about app and Four Paws, of course, but my concern is especially for the other organizations that now pay. For instance, if you have a low income of 250K, if you used to have a low income 250K, you would pay €100. Well, that's virtually nothing. But if you now are above 330, you're going to pay 265. Is that going to chase away present partners? That would be my question. Or
I mean, what it is essentially is it's an increase of €165 over 12 years.
No, I see that I see that this is not like unreasonable. So that's not the thing. But I mean, the reason why we did never increase is because we were afraid that the rationale behind the previous list, which
it's the tension here is between scaring away partners and trying to demonstrate that we're being a bit fairer to our main funders that are providing a lot of money, and that's kind of that's what I've tried to do there. Just to say, the other thing that I was thinking about, and it comes back to the partner meetings, is, and I don't have a number in mind, but as a principle, what we could say is, this is your partner fee. If you attend the general partner meeting, the in-person general partner meeting, then part of that fee will be reduced to cover that cost. So you're going to pay it anyway, right? Or some of it anyway, and it makes the financial decision slightly easier.
Yeah,
just a
this
thought.
was my proposal a few years ago, and we all thought it was sort of ridiculous. We shouldn't do that. So, but well, I mean, perhaps we have now a different opinion, but because I would say attending a meeting is also sort of an investment. So that goes for workshops, that goes for a partner meeting. So for me, it would sound very logical to to raise for instance, to say, well, the new proposed fees are, let's say, it starts with 400. If you're attending, then a part of that is being considered to be part of the fact that you're going to a meeting. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. That comes up again. Yeah.
And how would you do that? You'd knock it off the next year, like how? Because people might say, yeah, okay, well, I'll just pay the 300 instead of 400, say, but then they don't turn up.
I hadn't thought into that much detail. I mean, one thing you could say is we're issuing the invoices for partner fees in 4 weeks' time. Please let me know if you're attending the meeting this year so I can adjust accordingly if needed. And they could still not turn up. But at least they're making more of a commitment then. I don't know. That could be one way of doing it. Or like you say, you could just do it after the fact.
Yeah. I mean, if you would then add, let's say, 400 euros to the proposed new fee, then that would be, I mean, it would be strange to have different. I mean, it would, for instance, for the category 660 to 1.3 million, then you would also add 400 to the partner fee, and you would do the same for the lower categories and also the higher categories.
Yeah, it wouldn't be. It would just have to be an amount, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
it couldn't be more for higher income partners. It would just have to be a block amount that we see as a reasonable proportion of what it would cost to come to one of these meetings. But obviously that really varies as well, depending on that year and the flight, where you're flying from and to and all that sort of thing. I don't know. It could end up getting very complicated and difficult. It was just an idea. I mean, it would also probably result in losing a couple of partners because I do think at least a small handful of partners don't come because they just don't want to spend the money on it. So however way you chop it up in partner fees, they'll just go, oh, it all just adds up to more money, so I'm out.
Yeah.
Either more money because I'm going to have to come to the meeting, or more money because partner fees have tripled, or whatever they might look like to them. And they might just go, oh, well, I won't come then. That's it. I'll leave.
Barbara, this discussion came across because you had trouble explaining within 4PAUSE. And I could imagine that this at some point happens within AAP as well. So it's in that sense, it's not a strange thing. But would this solve your issue?
I mean, at the moment, nobody's asking about it, but I noticed now with the general partner meeting that there was pushback and questioning, why are these sanctuaries a member of EARS? Do they need to travel there? So, we have this whole restructuring. We have new people in charge, and of course, they're gonna, ask these questions. So at the moment, it's not a discussion yet, but I'm also looking at it a bit from, let's say, only from 4PAUSE side, we're contributing quite a large amount of money. We're not really putting our agenda here so much, right? This is like, I think 4PAUSE always supported this because we see the need for it outside of, what 4PAUSE wants to accomplish, let's say. But I don't know if 4PAUSE is really moving in that direction anymore, right? Things are changing a bit. And then if I see this year, none of our sanctuaries are turning up, there's internally not a big push like, hey, this is really important. We want you guys to go there. It's not really being prioritized by those in charge of the sanctuaries. Then I just foresee this coming, right? Then at some point, okay, if we're contributing like half of the budget every year, and then we're actually paying for a large part of this general partner meeting, and none of our sanctuaries are actually going. So it's really with just these kind of developments that I'm seeing that I foresee that at some point when this is being asked, we don't really have a good story right now. And speaking very openly, right, if we see like the members don't want to pay or cannot pay to be a member, the members are not really showing up to these general partner meetings, then I think at some point we also have to question, are we doing this because the partners want this? Like, what part of the work that we're doing here is something that they're really wanting, right? If Dave is saying, like, if I ask for topics, they don't really get back to us, they don't really respond. Maybe at some point we have to just look at, okay, you know what I mean? Like, what's the need actually from the partners, and what are we doing because we think that would be great to have and that would be an added benefit. But if nobody's really asking for it, nobody wants to pay for it, maybe we also have to take a look at what do they really like? Maybe it's more this online webinar stuff where I hear that, there's good responses. And then maybe we don't need to meet every year. And that will also save some of the budget. Again, nobody in Forpos is now pushing for this, but I expect that in the coming year, this will be a topic.
No. Okay, it's also for you then difficult to predict whether what we are doing now would be enough of an answer, because the
It
question
would help. I think the fact that the fee has not been changed for the last 12 years, I think that's something we have to correct, for sure.
Yeah,
I would also be interested, how does this work in other coalitions like these?
Yeah, there's always an indexation, and there's also an indexation of our costs. So we discussed that about Dave's salary, that we had to put an index on that, because otherwise he would earn less and less by working for EARS. So that's, in that sense, the indexation is completely understandable, and stupid that we didn't do it before, because then it would have been smaller steps and less of an issue. And
do
now
other coalitions do this? They change the fees?
Definitely, yeah. But most of them, I mean, I've seen it within Eurogroup when I was board member, same thing. We didn't do it for about 5 years, and then suddenly we made a step, and that did create some tension, because especially for the big ones, they suddenly had to go up quite a bit, and so that was difficult.
And I see the value of EARS just by sometimes, saying we're partner of EARS. EARS, this is an EARS coalition, right? It has some weight to the outside world that we're united and that we're sharing certain values and positions. But I sometimes wonder, our partners, like, what do they really want from us? What are they really interested in?
I think the answer to that, there isn't one answer to it. I think exactly what you just said. I think for some of them, it is just they want to be in EARS to show they are the cut above. I think that's true for everyone. And then it layers up beyond that. Some people want it to be there so that they can tap into, get help. Can you help me with this animal, that animal? Some people love coming to the general partner meeting. Some people want to do the webinars. Some people get benefit, like, for example, Mona asked me to do a reference for an application for a grant, things like that. So I think it's really layered. Like I think some partners see and get all of the benefit they can get from EARS, and some just really just want the badge at the gate. And I'm not saying that there's any one partner that literally only gets that, but there are some that are much more like that. So, but interestingly, what the partners want from EARS is probably not moving forward when we have to think about what Forpos or app might want for their contributions. Those two things are actually sometimes quite different. So some of the things that we're working on, like working with zoos and coordination of rescue and the things that we've been talking about over the last year or so, they're not things that partners are particularly interested. They see the value in it, but in them themselves, they're not hugely engaged, or they don't think that's why I'm part of EARS, so that we can get more zoos involved in rescue. They're not. They're involved in EARS because of the webinars, the meetings, the accreditation side of things. If not that we call it accreditation, but that's how they see it, and the networking. That's what they get from it.
Yeah, and I think app has always had a more clear agenda for EARS than Forpos had. So it might also just be a thing that we have to figure out on Forpos side, right? With our new strategy, how does EARS fit into that, or how do we fit into EARS? And then maybe the contribution at some point comes with, okay, we still want to contribute this, but that means we're going to put more of a stamp on what EARS should be doing.
Well, actually, that was something I wanted to discuss and in relationship with the fact that I'm stepping down, because I see the same thing within app at this moment. There's some developments within app that might at some point lead to us stepping a bit away from EARS, where it would be fully, we would still remain partner probably, but not at the level as what we're doing, as what app is doing now. So my suggestion was to put it to make it short, to at least for app to do a sort of a round of interviews. I'm not quite sure what the outcomes will be, because I'm no longer closely involved, but I do see that there are some shifts of interest. And if that goes, that we should know about those shifts within EARS, but app should also know what EARS can provide in that sense. But we could do the same thing. But I don't know if 4PAWS is ready for that. We could do the same thing for 4PAWS as well. I don't just perhaps it would be dangerous to do it at this stage because things are not clear cut yet. But I do think, from the perspective of AAP, it would be interesting to find out what the agenda of AAP would be for years. Also to see if there's a future at the same level as it has been on now. So AAP has invested about, I roughly calculated, but it's about 350,000 euros into the development of ears. The question is now, would AAP be willing to do the same thing for the next 10 years? So that would be that is something to know in advance rather than finding out by an organization, whether it is 4PAWS or AAP, just stepping out and saying, okay, we'll pay our partner fees, because then suddenly it becomes quite critical, and then the dependency is quite big on those two organizations. But Barbara, I don't know if that would be. So my proposal would be that I would see if I can find out if the AAP agenda at this moment with regards to the ears work is clear enough, so that we can open that discussion to see if the fit is still there. And I do think it's there. Only we have to make it clear again. And the original things that were the reason why I wanted to set up something like ears have changed. So the original goals, some of them we said, well, there's too little interest in the whole partnership, so let's step away from those, like the political involvement and those kind of things. And things like the positive list, those were things where we even lost a few partners for. So in Germany, we lost our partners because we were pushing as AAP too much on things like the positive list within ears. But I do think it would be worthwhile to do that exercise before I step down, because I'm a little bit afraid that otherwise it would if there would be a thorough evaluation being done at the moment, I think that the interest, apart from being a partner, would be quite low. And so the interest of public policy at the moment for the work that EARS is doing is not very big. And I do think we can do something about that, but preferably do the same thing for 4PAWS. But the question is again, what would be the right moment to do that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we're still in this reorganization, and the countries and the sanctuaries are coming 2026. And the dust from the international reorganization is still settling. So there's a lot of things where just the processes, the responsibilities are not so clearly defined. So what I did now after this general partner meeting is set out a first email just with, hey guys, is this still interesting? Why weren't you there? And then as a next step, I want to bring that to the country directors who are now responsible for EARS to see if I can get their buy-in, and then kind of escalate it up and see how it fits into our new strategy. So I would say we're not ready there yet, but I'm starting to collect the information and just see how what the moods are of the different people who are now responsible.
Yeah. Okay.
I think we'll get there, that we're ready for it in a few months, maybe mid next year or something.
And I think there is something here, like David and I discussed it briefly earlier, about taking charge of this conversation rather than kind of hoping to get the money each year, and then that maybe that interest and that alignment goes further and further away until eventually somebody says, nope, we need to control it a bit more. I think there's two bits of EARS. There's the bit of EARS which is what the partners want, which is the networking, the training, the webinars, online or in-person meetings. Then there's the bits that I think more likely 4PAWS and AAP are interested in, which is coordination of rescue efforts, gathering data to inform policy, and gathering data to support campaign and policy goals. And those two things are what they are. I think we need to have a conversation with AAP and 4PAWS saying, is EARS of benefit to you? If it isn't, and you plan to stop the funding, then we can discuss how that works. And then we work out, can ears carry on in a form that the partners can support, that provides, still does the webinars, still keeps people connected, still does the newsletters, still does all that kind of thing. But that would have to be funded by the partners because there'd be no other funding. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying at the moment, I feel like we're being a bit passive and we're not sort of, for fear of getting the wrong answer, we're not asking the right questions, sort of thing. And I think what David's talking about, which is trying to open up that dialogue with app, and maybe not now, right now, but at some point for pause, to ask them what they want. Because again, Ava, it'd be good to get your perspective. I get a feeling from your department that there's much more alignment and mutual goals there in terms of what is trying to do. But I don't know with public policy, because I just don't feel like there's a connection there with what we're doing. And that could be because there isn't one, or because there isn't the right communication. I don't know.
Question to Ava.
Yeah, well, I think that maybe it's a little bit different than before, because it's not really that separated. So the work we are doing as app is not so much separated in R&R public policy and stuff like that, but it's more integrated. So like, well, two of the major topics where we see a huge added value for ears is they are on the agenda, and those are like the zoo community, involving them in solving the rescue capacity problems. And the other part is the central data, or the central coordination of that. So I think those two topics are, if you look at our long-term plan, are like there's like 7 priorities, and these are 2 of the 7 priorities. So they're very high on the agenda. So, but maybe dig into it a little bit.
Yep, sorry.
To dig into that a little bit more, and to see how exactly then the added value could be, and what the role of ears and app would be, and where it adds up, and where it might also compete. That's definitely interesting to look into. So that we didn't do that in more detail.
Because I think that's the next question. So, like, let's say in the case of app, there's 2 areas of priority there for app that ears is working on. Does app therefore go, great, we'll let ears do some of that with us? Or is app saying, well, we're going to just do all that in-house, we don't really need ears, we'll do it ourselves? Which is a perfectly valid position, but then obviously has a huge importance on how relevant ears is for app. And I don't know, or have a good understanding, what app's position is there. Whether app's position is, well, we'll just do it all ourselves. We'll develop our own central database. We have our own things going on with that. We'll do our own work with zoos, and we don't need to involve ears. Or they see ears as having a kind of an integrated role into that work. I don't know, and that's the conversation I think maybe we need to have.
I think that would be the conversation to have and to find out. Because if we can make that into an integrated effort, then I think we could really make a huge step forward. And then the challenge suddenly becomes an opportunity. But now I see that it looks a little bit to me from the outside, because I'm really not closely involved with what happens within app. But from what I see and hear, it might also end up into competition, sort of competitive movements, and well, perhaps we can avoid that. So that would be my thought. And from what I hear, from what Barbara wants to do within 4PAUSE, that's almost the same thing. I mean, find out where the alignment is. That's actually what I'm proposing. But I think if you can do that internally, Barbara, that would be great. And even better, I suppose, because you know the ways, and also probably there's more than one person to talk to, so it might be a little bit more difficult to do that from the outside.
Yeah, the tricky thing is in 4PAUSE at the moment, there's not really one person who's in charge for this clearly. So that's why it's internally also confusing and takes some time.
Yeah. Okay, so then let me. I would like to see if Eric and also Devrel would be interested in having this conversation to look at what it is that AAP really is looking for, and also to see if we can make that alignment with theirs. And at some point, I think it would be good to invite Dave to that meeting and see how if we have the right tools to make that, to create that alignment. And for me, it would be important because personally, I invested heavily in ears. It would be a pity if that would at some point stop. So it would, for me, therefore, it would be interesting to do this effort. Sorry, Rachel.
It was just a comment that I think your wording of seeing it as an opportunity is just really important. So it's not just like, this is what we're doing, this is what you're doing, does it match? It's time for an update. Let's make sure that we're doing, let's make this an opportunity for everybody in it.
Yeah, and I hope it could be that. And I do think it could easily work out like that. And then we would at least be 10 years ahead again.
Yeah.
So that would be nice.
Yeah. And it's a long time since that was done. So it's good to keep that conversation going.
To align agendas. We've tried a few times, but it didn't really somehow, or it wasn't well enough prepared. I don't know, but it didn't really lead to something. So okay. But 10 years or 12 years later, it's good to look back and also to look forward again. Yeah. With different people, because there are also different people in the room.
Just on the partner fees, that I don't know if we want to come to a decision on it now, but obviously we've got the adjusted for inflation figures and then the proposed new one. Just based on what we were talking about then, and I obviously sincerely hope that the conversations we're going to have in the next few months lead to that opportunity being realized and everything else. But I also am keen to keep ears going for the partners as well. And a lot of the discussions we're going to have with App and Full Pause are about the elements of ears work that works for them as the funders, and I think that's a double win because it works for the funders, but also I think they're two very strategic organizations, and I think very much in line with the way ears wants to go about things. But increasing the partner fees a bit now might, at least in the worst case scenario, obviously plan for the best, prepare for the worst. In the worst case scenario, if funding stopped in the next few years, we might have something there that enables something to continue for the partners, which are actually the things the partners most value, which is the networking, organization of meetings, the cost of which is mostly borne by the partners anyway, webinars, things like that. So that's another reason why we should maybe look to start, not in a ridiculous way, but in a way that make sure there's some additional funding there so that ears can continue in some form. That's what those proposed fees might help achieve as well.
And it's also good to have that conversation with the partners, right? To see how much they're willing to contribute, at least when we're talking about inflation correction.
Yeah.
And able.
I think the next step would be sorry.
It's double the amount on top of the inflation correction, and that's what's happening. So and I really think it would be good if we could proceed with that, because then the budget of ears would become a little bit more realistic. But I don't know who's going to leave the room. It does come as a surprise for the partners.
We haven't talked. So I think the next step wouldn't be to say, here's the new fee. It would be I could put together there's obviously the inflation issue. We're moving into a new stage with ears where our funding we're discussing it, but we want to protect certain aspects of the services that we provide to partners through partner fees rather than relying on, and this is one way we can move towards that, so that in the future, whatever happens with the larger amounts of funding, we can ensure that ears continues in some forming. And the safest way to do that is by keeping it sustained by the partners. And that might move towards the kind of, I don't know what those partner fees come to, but maybe that's our budget for webinars and general partner meetings moving forward, so that we start to move to a two budget system. One is, this is what the partners provide and this is what it gets them. And then this is what Four Paws and App and any other donor provides. And it might be for specific projects. I don't know, I'm getting ahead, but for sure, I would like to try and create a sustainable source of income from the partners that gives them the minimum bits of what they really benefit from with ears, which is the meetings and the webinars and the network and the ability to contact each other, which doesn't cost a lot of money. It would mean I'd probably get paid less or not have a job, but it would mean that ears could continue and provide some of those functions. So I'd like to take control of that a little bit now rather than wait and then all of a sudden just be found with no money and it all just folds.
I fully agree with you, Dave. But I don't know if there's anyone else in the room who would propose another way to go. Anyone? Elisa, because for you, obviously, this would also mean a raise in costs. How would that feel within your organization?
You're muted.
Sorry, we already discussed about this last time. Absolutely agree that it's the time to increase the fee because it's a lot of year that is the same. So I think definitely is not a problem.
Okay. Now, Rachel, for you, it's even more difficult where you're moving from month to month and having to find the nickels and dimes to get things paid.
Yeah, but the principle is good, and I think anybody would recognise that. So and I think doing Dave's strategy of introducing the idea, giving people a heads up that this needs to be addressed, and then coming back with the proposals after that helps people get their heads around it, rather than suddenly an invoice dropping on the desk and it's 3 times what they were paying before.
That would definitely create some problems. Okay, does that mean that we can proceed with what Dave calls the proposed new fee, and also with the communication strategy that Dave is proposing, where this new proposed fee is also to secure some of the activities that are highly appreciated by the partners, by the way, for the future? And
the only question maybe for Barbara and Four Paws is, you've got two sort of routes here. One is, you regard yourself as a 13.2 million euro organization that gives the 7,920, or you work out the operating budget of each of your partner organizations and work it out individually. There's no one way that works better than the other. I don't know, but that's just not to decide right now, but that did occur to me, how Four Paws might view that.
Yeah, we could. I would say let's look into that once Four Paws figure us out what we want, because that's going to be a whole separate. For now, I think it's easiest if we're just in the high category. Yeah.
At the moment, Four Paws gives its donation and it just covers those costs, and that's fine. So yeah, it doesn't affect anything in practice right now, but it might be something to discuss later.
I just have to step out for 1 minute, then I'm back.
Okay. But I think
what happened to Nick?
He's there, but I'll stop sharing my screen. I think we lost his picture in.
Yeah, I'm still there. Still
alive. Yeah.
You fell off the screen.
Nick, do you have any thoughts on this whole subject, having heard about it, and what your thoughts are? And
to be honest, it's hard for me to say. I'm in a very different organization to the members of EOS. I think I can agree with what was said earlier about the Eurogroup members suddenly having a shock in the past. So I think I think that the fees are still lower, to be honest. So even with the updated fees, they're still low from my perspective, from the prowess that organizations get just from being part of EOS. For example, when we talk about the European Commission, EARS is a name that they recognize and they know. So being a part of that costs money as well, and is worth it. So I would say that any increase in fees, it sounds dramatic when you double the fees. That can sound dramatic. But I think really communicating on the fact that they've been frozen for several years and communicating on why they're going up and well in advance, I think is the key.
Thanks. And I'm right. You're right. The fees are still very, very low. But the organization, the type of organizations, they are saving lives of animals. And so for them, every 100 euros is the lives of individual animals. And that for many people within those organizations, it's quite difficult to make the choice to spend money on a membership or on a plane ticket or those kind of. And that's also the reason why probably they are for some part not attending the meetings, because they have spent the money already on other things.
Yeah, they're intangible benefits, right? It's
yeah, that's it. And the other thing is that and that's also there's a difference there between the bigger organizations and some of the partners. The political work, being recognized in Europe by the Commission, those kind of things, they resonate less in some of the smaller of the organizations. So they well, on the other hand, the webinars and stuff like that, that's interesting because there they can learn and it's easy to get information. And yeah, so there definitely there's two different categories of organizations there. Yeah. Okay, you're back again, Barbara. Neotropico. Dave,
yeah,
or not Dave.
My sincere apologies for only getting you the report as late as I did. I thought I'd sent it the week before last, but it wasn't. I thought I'd sent you the original email a week ago, and then when I finally did send it, I didn't attach the Neotropico screening, so double failure on my part. But I mean, as a summary, I was there obviously during the screening. I personally don't see any major concerns with Neotropico, certainly nothing on a policy level. They are in the process of expanding. Some of their facilities are too small. The report highlights the bird of prey enclosure. I think there's one or two others that could do with expanding. But Neotropico are very aware that the expansion that they're going to be doing in terms of the total area of their facility isn't just, it's going to be to improve the size and quality of the enclosures they've got as much as it is to increase their capacity generally. They are really active. They really wanted to come to the meeting this year, but couldn't. But I've got a lot of confidence that they will be one of the partners that contributes, interacts, comes to webinars, comes to the meetings. So me personally, I very much endorse the recommendation of the reviewer. It was Olga, that we admit them as partners. And then we do what we do with the others and just check in on those specific concerns. But yeah, I was really impressed with the additional work they do in terms of training and things like that. The only issue on that came up, but I think I think it fits within our criteria, is that there are animals handled as part of some of the training sessions, but they're very specific training sessions for law enforcement and things like that. They're not for visitors or anything like that. There's no visitor interaction issue at all. But some like reptiles and stuff are used in training for law enforcement, which I think overall has a net animal welfare benefit, because obviously they're training them how to handle those animals to reduce stress. Well, obviously maintain human safety, but reduce stress in those animals, etc. So that's my take on it.
Yeah. Anyone? Nick?
From reading the document, I felt fairly comfortable with the recommendations as well. Nothing jumped out at me, and the recommendations that were made at the end were the two things that jumped out at me while I was reading it. So I think what was presented in the document was very reasonable from my side.
Your sound is dropping again, but I don't know what's.
All good. All okay from my side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Eva.
Eva.
Eva, sorry. Yeah.
No. I'm not sure if I read it correctly in the document because I scan over it a bit quickly. But I didn't quite understand the financial part because on one hand in the risk it also said something about that there was it's completely funded by the government, but that was also a risk. So Dave, what is the background on that? And you know?
The majority of their funding, and I couldn't tell you off the top of my head the percentage, but the vast majority of their funding comes from the government for services they provide to the government, be that training or the actual work they're doing to take the animals themselves. I think Olga's point at the end is that obviously relying just on government for funding carries risks. I'm not sure it carries any more risk than any other single source of funding, but is that what you're referring to? Is Olga's comments at the end about diversifying funding?
Yeah, a little bit, because I was wondering, because they have changed the funding system, at least from CITES Spain, and I'm not sure if that's the funding they rely on or not, but they've now been, this is now the third system they're implementing, and for the coming year. And actually, it looks like that the amount of money they will have a system where they reimburse literally the animals you take care of, but it's really a lot less than the actual costs. So it looks like in the new system. So I was thinking, how vulnerable is that, and are they in that system or is it different? So I was thinking about the vulnerability and what that means, because for us actually it's a really unreliable source of income because it changes the system over and over again.
They are in that system, but I don't think that's the only government funding they get. They have various other contracts with them to provide the training that I mentioned earlier, which is quite lucrative for them. They do a lot of
there's
it.
additional government funding on different activities.
Yeah,
so
and that funding is more local. It's not from CITES, it's from the authorities in the area. So that's my understanding, but I couldn't give you more breakdown than that in terms of the percentages. But I think it's a fair point that they could potentially look at other ways to raise money. Hello.
Sorry, we have an extra now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But as I said, it's obviously in the green recommendations. I think it's it would be a nice to have, and they're aware of it, and they're both. Jaime is especially, he's just one of those people that goes out and makes things happen and gets the money when it's needed, sort of thing. So, yeah.
Okay, I was just wondering what system they were in. Okay, no, thank you.
I think it's one of the benefits that I get though from being part of EARS is meeting with people with maybe more of a background in the marketing, the fundraising, the social media, all that sort of thing. So, there's potential there.
Rachel?
Yeah, the thing that just would want to raise is how we follow up on our AMBER recommendations.
Yeah, there isn't a timeline.
We need a schedule. I'm just thinking there's Wildside as well that we need to do, and just making sure we keep that momentum going.
Yeah,
it's a real thing, not just something we write on paper.
Yeah. No, well, there isn't. That's the only thing. They don't have a timeline for when these improvements made, but I know why there isn't, because the improvements will be made when the facility is expanded and there's a lots of ifs and buts and questions. So putting an arbitrary number of months on it is kind of pointless. But yeah, you're right. We need to follow up and obviously do it quicker than we could. Not just doing it every 5 years. We need to follow up. So, yeah. Well, I'll be responsible for that. So. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, as you said, that there might be different reasons for going at different timescales, but as long as we're doing at least a 6 monthly checkup, depending on how serious it is, and just asking the questions, then we can see whether or not there is hope that things will get changed, or whether they're regarding it as a paper exercise and they don't need to worry about it.
Interestingly, those cases of screenings where it came up with a red recommendation resulted in quicker change because it was a no until you do this, so it got done quickly. These amber recommendations, they're still from screenings done a long time ago now. Some of those amber they weren't called them back then, they were just called recommendations. It was obviously we brought in the traffic light system later on, but what we would now call amber recommendations still not met with because of the realities of funding and this, that, and the other. And that's a bigger question about, do we?
But also us, whether or not we're going back and asking a question and reminding them that that's an important thing.
Yeah.
So they feel the pressure.
Yeah.
Dave, I don't understand if all the animals that you rescue are animals that are supposed to stay in captivity, or are there some native animal that will be rehabilitated to come back to the wildlife?
No, I think
because
they're all...
I have the doubt reading about the bird of prey.
I was about to answer your question and then you've made me second guess. I think the vast majority of their animals are not going back to the wild. They're confiscated animals from trade or ownership, and for various reasons aren't going back. That's the basic modus operandi of that place, is it's a sanctuary. But there are, I think Jaime did mention that they sometimes get in injured birds from the island that if they can, they will put back into the wild, but it's not a big part of what they do.
No, because I have the doubt about the bird of prey, because I didn't understood if they stay there because they, for example, needed to be treated or something
No,
like
so
that.
those birds of prey are there long term. So it's really important that they get bigger enclosures than they currently have. Yeah.
The only other, I have a general good impression. The only thing I read that they have a lot of employed people. So my question is, why don't they have shift that cover more the hour of the day? Because I read they stop to work at 3:30. That is quite early, and just a guardian to check all the place, I think is not so much, because if you really have a problem with the animal, it's really early to stop at that time. But it's my personal, I don't know. I see also here also for security reason to sometimes animal can stay not in good condition. I don't know.
Very good point.
I was going to ask the same question. It seems really peculiar to finish the day at 3:00.
Yeah.
3:30.
A lot of hours until the morning.
Yeah.
Night becomes a very long night. Yeah.
Yeah. And in a lot of daylight. It's just, it's very strange. It means you're seeing your animals for a very small proportion of the day.
I think it has to do with the fact that most of them are not hired by them, but via another institution. Because if it's the students or I think it's a different system. So it might not be even up to them, because they're not the ones that pay quite a lot of them. If I understood it correctly in the document.
No, but in terms of welfare, it could be a problem in terms of welfare. That if the day, the active day of the animals ends at 3.
Well, it depends if you get them inside, if you maybe the owners stay in the center and the vet stays. You don't know. I mean those details. But I think they have like permanent outside enclosures anyway. So then, I don't know. We could ask them. But,
we can definitely ask them. From memory, and I don't think it's written in the report, the way they were talking about it was, we kind of get out of the way. We don't want to be around interacting with the animals constantly. So we get everything done as quickly as we can and then leave them. There are people on site 24/7. But we can ask that question,
Because I've read that there is only a guardian. There is written that there is only a guardian. And
it's not. They're not keepers. They're not. So that's that question of how are you observing the animals past that time? They're not. they're not. So we can ask that question and say, is that something you've considered? It's not, I would say it's certainly not, an amber type question. It's a green type question, which is, but we
Well,
can
it should
ask
be a
it.
clarifying question.
Yeah.
Is the welfare of animals being compromised because of the day length as written down as we've seen it? I mean, that could be, then animal welfare should be an issue, but not in itself. It could be that the animals have huge enclosures where they have lots of things to do, and then who are we to judge? But if they're within zoos, we do consider it to be a problem that they are locked in too early and they have to spend a long day into backstage facility, night facilities, and then it can become an issue.
That's one thing I can say is that I don't think there's any of the enclosures there. They're not locked in at any time. They have open access to whatever enclosure they have. But there's still the point of people aren't seeing them and observing them, for the whole period of the day. Obviously, Mona have taken this a step forward and said a step further and said, well, no zoo or rescue centre looks at the animals all through the night, which many of them are active and doing things then. So this is why I say it's kind of it's a really useful. We can certainly ask it, but I don't think if they said, oh well, yeah, there may be some issues, but this is the way we run things and keep it working. I'm not sure if it'd be something that would preclude the application.
There's also just feeding and medication. How do they deal with that? If you're on antibiotics, do they just have to shorten it and hope that it works? What are they doing on that practical level?
So let's make it into an open question. So we see that your day ends at 3. That's that some people notice that and during the screening and what's your response to that with regard to the welfare of the animals?
Do you want to ask that question? Do you want to ask that question before we approve the application? So we say before we approve it, we want to hear this, or do we say we approve the application, but we'd be really interested to hear how you go about that and have you considered the impacts?
If it really would be a welfare issue, then it could be an amber recommendation. If the answer brings doubts about the welfare of animals, then it could at least be an amber issue. So it would be strange to first say you're in and then ask a question that's
So ask a question as something that's come up that we've highlighted, and then depending on the answer, it can go on to an amber recommendation as part of the acceptance.
Yeah, that would be also my idea. Yeah.
Okay. So they're open. I'm just checking that the keepers work from 8 a.m. until 3:30. Just out of interest, when are the keepers there at I don't know, App and Wild Futures and Montedone?
Until what time they work, you mean?
Yeah, when do they work from until?
They start at 8:15 and they finish 5:15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Similar sort of
You
time.
ask also to me, Dave?
Yeah, just so I've got when I go back.
We start in the morning about 7:30 and each shift, and we cover all the day until 7:30, 8 o'clock in the evening.
Okay.
Because yes, we have also native animal that is different because we need to treat the animal. So, but in general for exotic, we have check also at night. For example, we have a night shift in which people have to check the temperature of the enclosure, the health of the animal, just a quick check. But yes.
Okay.
We are used to do that because it happened in the past that if we stay only on the timetable of the animal and there was an healthy problem, you cannot see it before that time. So for that reason, we do different check during the days and the night.
Okay.
So we have.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. What Wild Futures? It's 8:30 till 5. but then somebody always stays on till 6 to do last checks, and then there's somebody who just stays overnight in case of any events. But that's as much as people care as well as animal care. However, if there are specific medications that have to go out for acute illnesses, then staff stay on to ensure that goes with the best veterinary protocol rather than the hours that the keepers or the care staff are working.
Yeah.
So if it has to be 12 hours between medications, then that's what's done.
Yeah. No, I mean, without also special cases just left alone. I mean, if you have babies that need feeding every 2 hours, then of course there's a different schedule. That's like the rarity.
Yeah.
And we also have a different schedule in the summer in prima domus because it's just far too hot to work at certain hours. But the animals don't do anything then either because it's bloody hot.
I'll ask the open question. We've noticed that it's a relatively short early finish time. How do you ensure that early finish time doesn't have a negative impact on the welfare of the animals? And I'll send their response to you as the board, and then you can decide as the board if you want to introduce another amber recommendation. Yeah.
We're nearing 6 o'clock, and I think Nick, sorry.
I think he was just agreeing with
my
thumbs
up. Not a hand up, a thumbs up. Yeah, okay, great, thanks. We are getting close to the end of the meeting. I don't know about others, but I have to leave at some point. The only issue that was open was my departure. I've announced that I want to step down as chair of the board. I could also imagine that it would be good to stay on for a little bit longer until we've done the survey within AAP, unless you guys already have an idea about how to if there's already a successor. So I could stay on for a little bit longer, or I could step out. So it's for me, it's sort of I could do this as a sort of in between. But I can still also do it as a board member of EARS. So both options are for me there. There's not an urgent need to immediately step down. So it's up to you guys to if you think it's okay to stay on a little bit longer, then I stay on a little bit longer until we have aligned the work of AAP and EARS a little bit more. Is that an idea or?
I'm not a board member, but I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I think we also should discuss at some point how to go about a new, how we're going to do that, because we didn't discuss it at all. So maybe that's at some point. I mean, and maybe it's better if you're not there, Dave. I mean, you can be there, David, but it's a bit weird, isn't it?
That's clear. So I mean, it's more like if you already have an idea about a new chairman, then it would be. Then I would immediately say, okay, then I'll step out.
But no, we didn't discuss it at all yet. So we need some time for that.
So then it would be more logical to stay on a little bit longer and to give you the time to look for someone else, and also for me to do this survey within AAP EARS relationship Okay. Dave, you had dates on the agenda still.
Had what? Sorry.
There's one more agenda item, and it's dates.
Dates. That's just date for the next board meeting
for the new year.
Probably. So I will just I'll put some dates out for the whole year, but I might put maybe a couple at the start early on in the year, because I think we need a separate one about the zoos, and then we've got quite a lot to discuss around AAP and stuff like that. And obviously, if those discussions with AAP involve me coming over there, then obviously happy to do that if that makes sense, or we can do it online as well. So yeah.
Okay.
What kind of timescale are you talking about for the conversation with AAP? So we know how long we've got, David, and at what point we need to then get together.
I don't know, because I didn't
the succession.
I didn't I didn't ask people within AAP yet if they're interested in this setup. So I first wanted to introduce that within EARS, if that would be interesting, and then ask AAP whether they would be interested in having this conversation. So I can't say anything. I don't know how busy everyone is. So for me, it's difficult to say that without asking people first.
Okay.
So, but let's say 2 or 3 months at most.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay.
Within that
Yeah.
time, there should always be a possibility.
Yeah, I
to
think
talk.
in the first quarter that should be then it
Yeah.
should be the first quarter, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah. Okay.
Speaking on behalf of those people at AUP.
Yeah, well, I mean, but also I did ask you if you if you have time available to have this discussion. So
True.
Okay. So we don't have to say goodbye to you yet then.
No,
can put that
that's
stuff.
also nice. That's all. If postponing that moment is also nice.
We are not ready.
Well, neither am I. So no, but on the other hand, it's good. It's also good to move on. Yeah. Well, okay. Thanks for everyone's. Is there anyone who has something else for the meeting, or can we close off? Anyone?
No.
No hands, Rachel. No. Okay.
Just thank you to everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
and it was nice to see you again. Yeah.
Yes,
Thanks a lot.
thank you.
Sorry to
Have
have
a
missed a
nice
few
evening.
moments. Yeah.
Get well soon.
Bye.
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 See you later.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.